The Hunter's Hall stood at the center of Crimson Fang Station, a massive structure of dark metal and glowing crystals. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of different species, all of them predators. The walls displayed trophies from 1,000 worlds. Skulls as big as transport pods hung from chains. Holographic screens showed videos of famous hunts, creatures dying in slow motion while crowds cheered. Tonight was special. The Grand Conclave happened only once every 10 years. Hunters from across the galaxy came to share their stories and prove their worth. The greatest predators in known space gathered in one room, and the atmosphere crackled with competition and pride. Graxthor stood in the center of the hall. He was Vrax, a species that looked like someone had mixed a lizard with a bear and made it 3 meters tall. His scales were deep red with black patterns that marked him as a clan leader. When he spoke, his voice rumbled through the hall like distant thunder. "I tracked the Thunder Beasts of Korvan 7 for 40 days, Graxthor announced. They were 6 meters tall with armor plating that could stop plasma rounds. They traveled in herds of 50. I killed their alpha in single combat and the rest scattered." He raised his clawed hands high. The crowd roared approval. A Kresh hunter clicked forward next. The insectoid creature stood on 6 legs, its body covered in green chitin that reflected the hall's lights. Its name was Lixara, and she was famous across 3 sectors. "The screaming horrors of Nexus Prime," she began. Her voice a series of clicks translated by the hall's systems. "My clan hunted them for 6 months. They could turn invisible and had acid for blood. We lost 30 warriors but killed them all. Every last one. Their species is now extinct." More cheers. More stories. A Velther hunter described clearing an entire moon of its native predators. Another Vurak spoke of hunting prey through the toxic storms of a gas giant's upper atmosphere. Each story was more impressive than the last. Each hunter tried to prove they were the deadliest being in the room. In the corner, almost hidden in shadow, sat De Hyun. He was human, which meant he was small compared to most beings here. His clothes were simple traveling gear, worn but clean. He had a cup of something warm in his hands, and he watched the proceedings with quiet interest. His face showed nothing. No fear, no excitement, just attention. Most of the predators did not notice him at all. Those who did assumed he was a servant or maybe a translator for some other species. Humans were known but not common in this part of space. They ran cargo ships and worked as technicians. They were useful but not important. Certainly not hunters. The stories continued for hours. The drinks flowed. The hunters grew louder and more boastful. Lixara finished a tale about tracking prey through underground tunnels for weeks without rest. The creature thought it was safe in the dark. She clicked triumphantly. It was wrong. We Kresh see in spectrums you cannot imagine. The dark is where we are strongest. The crowd cheered again. Hunters slammed their appendages on tables. The noise was deafening. Then, cutting through the celebration like a knife through flesh, came a quiet voice. "Is that all?" The hall went silent. It was so sudden that several hunters looked around in confusion. The voice had been soft, barely above a whisper, but somehow everyone had heard it clearly. Graxthor's eyes, which had been half closed in satisfaction, snapped open. He turned slowly, scanning the crowd. Who spoke? His voice was dangerous now, no longer jovial. Daehyun raised his hand slightly. Not aggressive, just acknowledging. "I did," he said in that same quiet voice, every head turned. Every eye focused on the small human in the corner. Graxthor pushed through the crowd, other hunters moving aside quickly. He stopped 2 meters from Daehyun, towering over him. This close, the size difference was absurd. Graxthor could have torn the human apart with one hand. "What did you say, little one?" Graxthor asked. His tone suggested that the next words from Daehyun's mouth would determine whether he lived or died. Daehyun stood up slowly. He was calm. He set his cup down carefully on the table behind him, then looked up at the massive racks. "I said, is that all? I have been listening for 3 hours now. Very impressive stories, truly. But I noticed something interesting." "And what?" Graxthor growled. "Did you notice? Every story here is about hunting creatures that could not hunt you back." Daehyun's voice remained level and polite. "Non-sentient beasts, species without space travel. Animals that evolved on their homeworlds and never left. You are all very skilled at killing things weaker than yourselves. Where I come from, we call that something different than hunting." The temperature in the hall seemed to drop. Several hunters reached for weapons. Lixara's mandibles spread in what might have been shock or rage. A Velthir named Korinth, whose crystalline body marked him as ancient and powerful, raised one glowing hand. "Silence," Corinth commanded, and everyone obeyed. He moved forward, his body chiming softly with each step. "Human, you have insulted every hunter in this hall. By the laws of the Grand Conclave, you must now prove your worth or face consequences. Do you understand?" Daehyun nodded once. "I understand." "Then you will tell us your story," Corinth said. "You will explain why you believe yourself qualified to judge us. If your tale is worthy, you may stay and trade here as an equal. If it is not," the Velthir paused, "then you will become prey for a ceremonial hunt. These are the ancient laws. Do you accept these terms?" "I accept," Daehyun said without hesitation. The hunters began to settle back into their seats, eager now for different entertainment. They expected the human to beg or to tell some pathetic story that would justify his execution. They expected to enjoy watching him squirm. Daehyun walked to the center of the hall where Graxthor had stood. He looked small there, surrounded by beings that could kill him easily. But his voice, when he spoke, carried clearly to every corner. "I will tell you about a hunt from my world," he said. "Nothing fancy, no space travel. Just one man tracking another man through mountains during winter. A very long time ago in a place called the Korean Peninsula." Several hunters made sounds of disappointment. "A human hunting another human? How boring. How primitive." But Corinth raised his hand again. "Let him speak. The laws demand we listen." Daehyun smiled slightly. "Thank you. Now let me tell you about my ancestor, and about what it means to hunt something that hunts you back." The holographic systems in the hall flickered to life, responding to Daehyun's neural implant. Images began to form in the air around him. Images of Earth, of snow-covered mountains, of blood on white ground. The story was about to begin. The holographic display showed mountains covered in snow. The peaks were sharp and high, cutting into a gray sky. Daehyun stood in the center of the projection, and the scene moved around him as he spoke. "This happened during what we call the Imjin War," he began. "It was a conflict between kingdoms, the kind of thing that happened often on Earth before we unified. The details of politics do not matter. What matters is the hunt." The image shifted to show a village burning. This is where the story starts. A warrior named Hayato came through this region with an invading army. He was samurai, a trained warrior from Japan. He had killed 43 people in night raids over 2 weeks. Soldiers and civilians both. He moved like smoke. Appeared, killed, vanished. Graxthor leaned forward despite himself. "Why did your people not use larger forces to find him?" "They tried," Daehyun said. "But armies are loud and slow. Hayato could hear them coming and disappear. So the village leaders sent for a tracker. They sent for my ancestor, Taemin." The hologram showed a man appearing in the village. He was smaller than the warriors around him, dressed simply. He carried a bow and a long knife. Nothing special about his appearance, but something about the way he moved caught attention. Taemin was not a soldier. Daehyun continued. He was a hunter. He tracked deer and boar in these mountains. He knew every path, every hiding spot, every way the wind moved through the valleys. The village leaders told him to find Hayato. So he did. The scene shifted to mountain trails, snow falling, footprints barely visible. The first 3 days Taemin just followed. He did not try to catch up. He studied the tracks. He learned Hayato's patterns, where he stepped, how deep the prints were, which direction he favored when given a choice. Lixara clicked skeptically. "Reading tracks is basic. All hunters do this." "Yes," Daehyun agreed. But Taemin was not just reading where Hayato had been. He was reading who Hayato was. The depth of prints told him Hayato's weight and how much equipment he carried. The spacing told him if Hayato was tired or fresh. The direction choices told him how Hayato thought, what he valued, what he feared. The hologram showed the tracker kneeling by prints in snow, touching them carefully, then looking at the sky and the trees. By day 5, Taemin knew Hayato was running low on food. By day 7, he knew Hayato's left ankle was injured. By day 9, he knew Hayato was aware someone was following him. "How?" asked a Velthir hunter. "Because Hayato started leaving false trails," Daehyun explained. The hologram showed footprints leading to a cliff edge, then vanishing. Hayato would walk to a dangerous place, then backtrack in his own prints and jump to rocks, leaving no trail. A normal tracker would waste time searching. But Taemin had learned how Hayato moved. He knew Hayato would not risk certain paths because of his injured ankle. So Taemin ignored the false trails and kept following the real one. The assembled hunters were quiet now, watching closely. The hologram showed both men moving through the mountains, never quite seeing each other but always aware. By day 12, Hayato changed tactics, Daehyun said. He stopped running. He found a good position and waited. He was going to ambush whoever was tracking him. The hologram showed a narrow pass between rocks, perfect for an ambush. A single person would have to walk through and would be exposed. Taemin reached this pass on day 13. Daehyun continued. He saw immediately that it was a trap, so he did not take the path. Instead, he climbed. It took him 6 hours to go up and around, through snow and ice, risking death from falls. When he reached the other side of the pass, he found Hayato's hiding spot. Empty. Several hunters made sounds of surprise. Hayato knew the tracker would avoid the trap. Not exactly, Daehyun said. But Hayato was not stupid. He knew a good tracker might avoid it, so he had set 2 traps. The pass was the obvious one. 300 meters further, hidden in trees, was the real ambush point. And that is where Taemin walked. The hologram showed it happening. Taemin walking through trees, Hayato dropping from above, sword already swinging, but Taemin moved at the last instant, rolling forward. The sword cut through his pack instead of his neck. This is when both men realized something important, Daehyun said quietly. They were evenly matched. Hayato was a trained warrior with better weapons and armor. Taemin knew the terrain and had been studying his opponent for 13 days. Neither could guarantee victory in direct combat. So what happened? Graxthor asked, genuinely curious now. They fought for 3 hours, Daehyun said. The hologram showed it in flashes. 2 men in snow circling each other, blood on white ground, neither giving up, neither running. Taemin had his bow but could not get distance to use it. Hayato had his sword, but Taemin was too fast to corner. They wounded each other multiple times. Small cuts, bruises, exhaustion building. The image showed both men breathing hard, bleeding, watching each other across 5 meters of snow. Taemin spoke first, Daehyun said. He told Hayato that he respected his skill. He said Hayato could leave. Return to his army. No one would know. But Hayato refused. He said he had his honor as a warrior. He could not run from a fight. So Taemin changed tactics one final time, Daehyun continued. He stopped trying to kill Hayato. Instead, he started herding him, moving him toward a specific location. Hayato realized this too late. The hologram showed Taemin driving Hayato backward through the trees, not with attacks but with positioning. Every time Hayato tried to circle, Taemin blocked the path. Every time Hayato tried to stand ground, Taemin forced him to move. Taemin drove him to a frozen river, Daehyun said. The ice was thin. Taemin knew this because he had crossed it carefully the day before. But Hayato did not know. Hayato only knew he was being pushed toward water and did not want to be trapped there. The hologram showed the moment, Hayato stepping onto ice, the ice cracking. Hayato's expression changing from determination to understanding to fear, all in 1 second. The water was not deep, Daehyun said, but it was freezing. Hayato got out, but he was soaked. In those temperatures and wet clothes, he had maybe 30 minutes before his body would shut down. Taemin stood on the bank and waited. Hayato tried to charge him twice, but he was already getting slower, weaker. The cold was doing what Taemin's arrows could not. The image showed Hayato falling to his knees in the snow. Taemin approached carefully, bow ready. But Hayato no longer held his sword. Before Hayato died, Taemin asked him a question, Daehyun said. He asked when Hayato had realized someone was tracking him. Hayato smiled. He said he had known since day 5. He had been tracking Taemin back for the last 8 days. He was impressed that Taemin never once let himself be ambushed. The hall was completely silent. The hologram faded, leaving just Daehyun standing in the center. That is a hunt from my world, Daehyun said softly. 2 apex predators. Same species. Both intelligent. Both skilled. Both willing to die rather than give up. And it ended not with strength or speed, but with patience and knowledge of the environment. He looked around at the gathered aliens. So when I ask, is that all about your hunts, I mean no disrespect. I am simply used to hunting being more complicated. Corinth's crystalline body chimed softly. That is one impressive hunt, human, but one story is not enough. Tell us more. Daehyun smiled slightly. I have more stories. Many more. Graxthor shifted his weight, scales clicking against each other. One skilled ancestor does not prove your species is dangerous. Every species has outliers, warriors who rise above the rest. Perhaps this Taemin was unique among humans. Several hunters voiced agreement. Daehyun nodded as if he expected this response. Fair point. Let me tell you something different then. Not about one human, but about how all humans hunt. The holographic system activated again. This time it showed a wide grassland under a hot sun. Golden grass stretched to the horizon. In the distance, small figures moved. This is Africa, Daehyun said. The place where humans evolved. Before we had cities or technology or anything you would recognize as civilization, this is how my ancestors hunted for 200,000 years. The image focused on a group of early humans. They looked primitive compared to modern humans. Their clothes were simple animal hides. Their weapons were just sharpened stones tied to sticks. They looked weak and exposed under the vast sky. Watch, Daehyun said simply. The humans in the hologram spotted an antelope in the distance. The animal was beautiful and fast. It grazed peacefully, unaware of danger. Then it noticed the humans and bolted. The humans started running after it. Not at full speed, just a steady jog. Wait, Lixara clicked. They cannot catch it at that speed. The prey is much faster. Correct, Daehyun said. The antelope can run at 70 kilometers per hour. These humans can run at maybe 15 kilometers per hour. There is no contest. The hologram showed exactly that. The antelope vanished over a hill in seconds. The humans kept jogging steadily behind it. Minutes passed. The antelope was long gone. Then what is the point? Asked a young Vrax hunter. Keep watching, Daehyun said. An hour passed in the hologram, compressed to seconds. The humans never stopped moving. They followed the tracks left by the antelope. When they lost the trail, they spread out and searched until they found it again. They kept going 2 hours. 3 hours. The sun moved across the sky. Still the humans jogged forward. Your prey escaped, Graxthor said. This hunt failed. Not yet, Daehyun replied. 4 hours into the hunt, the hologram showed the antelope again. It was resting in shade, panting heavily. It looked exhausted. Then it saw the humans still coming in the distance. The antelope's eyes went wide. It forced itself up and ran again. The humans kept their steady pace. Not rushing, not sprinting, just moving forward constantly. How are they still running? Avelthir asked, confused. Humans are persistence hunters, Daehyun explained. We evolved on a hot world where most predators hunt in bursts. They run fast but overheat quickly. They must rest. But humans have something special. We sweat, he held up his arm. Our skin has millions of tiny holes that release water. This cools us down as we move. We also breathe in a way that separates from our running rhythm. Most animals must match their breathing to their legs. 4 steps, breathe. 4 steps, breathe. But humans can breathe any rhythm we want while running. This means we are incredibly efficient, the hologram continued. 6 hours now. The antelope ran again when the humans got close, but its run was slower. Weaker. 8 hours. The antelope could barely trot. Its body was shutting down from heat exhaustion and fatigue. We also carry water, Daehyun added. The hologram showed one human drinking from a container made of animal stomach. And we can plan. We know the prey will go toward water when desperate, so some humans circle ahead while others push from behind. 10 hours into the hunt, the antelope collapsed. It simply could not run anymore. Its legs shook and failed. The humans walked up to it calmly. One stepped forward with a spear and ended its life quickly. 10 hours, Daehyun said into the silence. The prey was faster, stronger, better adapted to the environment. But it had one weakness. It could be tired out. And humans never stopped coming. He changed the hologram to show different scenes. Humans chasing deer through snow. Humans following wild horses across plains. Humans tracking zebras through savanna. This is called persistence hunting, Daehyun continued. It is not common in the galaxy because most species cannot do it. You need specific biology, the ability to cool your body while moving, the ability to carry water and food while hunting, the ability to track over long distances, and most importantly, the mental capacity to never give up. This is cruel, one hunter said. You chase prey until it dies of exhaustion? Yes, Daehyun said simply. We chase them until their bodies fail, until they cannot go any further. And then we kill them. It takes most of a day, but it works. And it works on prey that is bigger, faster, and stronger than us. The hologram shifted again. Now it showed modern humans. We still do this. Even now, with all our technology, some humans run for sport. The image showed a human running through mountains. Ultra marathons. Races of 240 kilometers. No vehicles. No assistance. Just running for days without stopping. Humans do this for fun. A creche hunter's mandibles trembled. Your species runs for an entire day. As entertainment. Some run for multiple days, Daehyun corrected. The longest recorded run was 350 kilometers without rest. The human's name was Yunhee. She was from Korea. She ran for 42 hours straight across mountains to deliver medicine to a remote village during a storm. The journey would have taken 3 days by normal travel. She did it in less than 2 days without sleeping. He let that sink in before continuing. Or consider search and rescue teams. When someone gets lost in wilderness, we send humans to track them. These teams will search for days without rest. They climb mountains in darkness. They cross rivers in winter. They track through conditions that would kill most species. And they do not stop until they find who they are looking for, alive or dead. The hologram showed rescue workers carrying someone down a snowy mountain at night. That team worked for 72 hours straight to find a lost child. No sleep, minimal food, just determination. Graxthor was quiet now. All the hunters were. The boasting atmosphere from earlier had vanished completely. You hunt by never stopping, Corinth said slowly. You evolved to chase prey until they die of fatigue. We evolved to be patient, Daehyun corrected. Speed is a tactic. Strength is a tactic, but patience is a strategy. You can run from something fast. You can hide from something strong. But how do you escape something that never stops tracking you? Something that will follow you for days, weeks, months if necessary? Something that does not tire, does not quit, does not forget? He looked around at all of them. Humans are not the fastest species. We are not the strongest. We do not have natural weapons or armor, but we have something more dangerous. We have endurance. And we have the absolute refusal to give up once we start hunting something. That is why, Daehyun continued softly, when I listen to your stories about hunting non-sentient beasts, I think about how those beasts never had a chance. You tracked them with superior technology. You killed them with superior weapons. But they could not adapt, could not learn, could not change tactics. Now imagine hunting something that can do all those things and still never stops coming. Something that gets smarter each time you encounter it. Something that remembers every mistake you make. He paused. That is what humans hunt. We hunt each other. And we are very, very good at it. The silence in the hall was heavy. Several hunters shifted uncomfortably. They were beginning to understand something unsettling about the small species standing before them. But surely, Avelthir ventured, you must have weaknesses. You said yourself you lack natural weapons. Daehyun's smile was not comforting. We make our own weapons. Would you like to hear about that? The holographic display changed again, and this time it showed a simple scene. A human hand holding a rock. Nothing more. This is where it starts, Daehyun said. 3 million years ago, a human ancestor picked up a rock and realized it could be used to break things. Bones, shells, skulls. The image showed the rock being chipped and shaped. Then someone realized that if you break the rock correctly, you get a sharp edge. A cutting tool. A weapon. The progression continued in the hologram. Rock became spear. Spear became bow. Bow became crossbow. Crossbow became gun. Gun became plasma rifle. Each step showed humans taking whatever they had and making it more deadly. We are tool users, Daehyun explained. Many species use tools, but humans are special. We do not just use tools. We obsess over them. We spend generations perfecting a single weapon design. We teach our children how to make and use weapons before they are old enough to hunt. A Vrax hunter named Takar spoke up. But tools are external. Take them away and you are helpless, are we? Daehyun asked. The hologram shifted to show a different scene. Let me tell you about a place on Earth, a continent called Australia. When humans first arrived there 40,000 years ago, it was full of megafauna, giant predators that had never seen humans before. The images showed massive creatures, lizards the size of trucks, birds taller than Graxthor, marsupial lions with teeth like knives. These creatures were the apex predators of their continent, Daehyun continued. They had ruled for millions of years. Then humans showed up with stone-tipped spears and fire. Fire? Lixara clicked. Humans learned to control fire, Daehyun said. We learned to carry it, start it, use it. It gave us light and darkness. It scared away predators. It cooked our food so we could eat more things. And most importantly, it let us reshape entire environments. The hologram showed humans setting grassland on fire. We would burn large areas to drive prey toward killing zones, or to clear forest and make it grassland where we could see predators coming. We used fire as a weapon and a tool. The image returned to the megafauna. Within 3,000 years of humans arriving in Australia, 90% of large animals were extinct. Not because we ate them all. We could not possibly eat that much. We killed them because they were competition, because they were dangerous, because they were inconvenient. Graxthor's tail lashed. You committed genocide against your own planet's apex predators? For convenience? Yes, Daehyun said without emotion. We did the same thing on every continent we reached. North America had giant ground sloths, saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, massive bears. Within 1,000 years of human arrival, they were all gone. South America had giant armadillos and terror birds. Gone. Europe had cave bears and lions. Gone. He changed the image to show Earth from space. My world was full of creatures that preyed on humans, so we exterminated them. Not in war. Not in desperate survival. We just systematically removed anything that threatened us, and we did this before we had metal tools, before we had agriculture, before we had any of the things you would consider civilization. That is monstrous, a young hunter whispered. That is efficiency, Daehyun corrected. Why waste energy hiding from predators when you can eliminate them? Why live in fear when you can remove the threat permanently? He brought up a new image. But Earth is a death world, Class 7 by galactic standards. Removing the megafauna did not make it safe. We still had natural disasters to deal with. The hologram showed massive storms, earthquakes splitting the ground, volcanoes erupting, tsunamis drowning coastlines. Earth tries to kill humans constantly, Daehyun said. Hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, droughts, heat waves, ice ages. Our planet has more severe weather than 98% of inhabited worlds in the galaxy. And it has been this way for millions of years. So you adapted, Corinth said. No, Daehyun replied. We did not just adapt, we conquered. We built cities in the paths of hurricanes, and when they were destroyed, we built them again with stronger materials. We settled on the edges of volcanoes because the soil was fertile. We created shelters that could withstand earthquakes. We did not avoid danger. We learned to live with it, to expect it, to plan for it. The hologram showed human cities standing against storms, buildings swaying but not falling, walls holding back floods. And when Earth threw something new at us, we studied it and found a way to survive it. Disease? We invented medicine. Famine? We created agriculture. Drought? We built irrigation systems. For every problem our world presented, we found a solution or died trying. And the ones who found solutions taught their children. And those children taught their children, and slowly we became a species that could survive anything. Daehyun walked slowly around the center of the hall. But here is what makes humans truly dangerous. We do not just survive. We remember. And we hold grudges. The hologram changed to show a woman. She looked strong but exhausted, wearing torn clothes. This is Hana. She was a colonist on a new world. The colony ship crashed during landing. She was the only survivor. The planet was designated as uninhabitable due to aggressive native predators. The image showed creatures attacking a campsite. They looked vicious and intelligent. Hana had no weapons except a survival knife. No shelter except the crashed ship. No communication to call for rescue. The rescue team was 4 years away. She died then, Tokar said. No, Daehyun said. When the rescue team finally arrived 4 years later, they found her alive. She had built a fortified compound with farming domes. She had trapped and studied the native predators. And she had 3 of them trained. The hologram showed Hana walking with 3 massive predators following her like dogs. Trained? Several hunters spoke at once. She broke them, Daehyun explained. She studied their behavior. She learned what they feared and what they wanted. She used that knowledge to dominate them, not as equals, not as friends. She made them understand that she was the apex predator and they were beneath her. When the rescue team asked how she survived, she said something interesting. She said the hardest part was not surviving the predators or the harsh environment. The hardest part was not having anyone to talk to. Humans are social creatures. We need interaction. But even facing complete isolation, even facing death daily, she refused to give up. She survived out of pure stubbornness. Daehyun looked around at the assembled hunters. That is what humans do. You put us in impossible situations and we find a way through. Not because we are stronger or faster, but because we refuse to accept defeat. We will use tools, intelligence, patience, and sheer determination to overcome any obstacle. And if you take away our tools? Graxthor asked. Strip away the technology? Daehyun's expression became serious. Then we become more dangerous, not less. Because a human with nothing to lose, nothing to work with, is a human who has stopped playing by rules. Let me tell you about what happens when you corner a human. The hologram shifted again, and several hunters leaned back instinctively from what they saw forming in the display. The holographic display showed a fortress made of stone. Snow fell around it heavily. Daehyun's voice was quiet as he began. This is Haengju Fortress in Korea. The year was 1593 by Earth's calendar. 3,000 people were inside these walls. Most were civilians. Some were monks who had never fought before. A few hundred were trained soldiers. Outside the walls were 30,000 enemy warriors. The image showed the massive army surrounding the small fortress. The difference in numbers was horrifying. The defenders had no advanced weapons, Daehyun continued. No plasma shields. No energy weapons. Just stone walls, some bows, and determination. They were outnumbered 10-1. By any logical assessment, they would lose. They surrendered? A hunter asked. No, Daehyun said flatly. They held the fortress for 10 days. When the enemy finally retreated, they had lost over half their forces. The defenders lost less than 5%. The hologram showed the battle in flashes. Defenders dropping stones on attackers. Boiling water poured from walls. Arrows fired in coordinated waves. The enemy trying to climb walls and being pushed back again and again. How is this possible? Lixara demanded. Because humans understand something fundamental about survival, Daehyun explained. When you have nowhere to run, when surrender means death, when the only choice is fight or die, then humans fight with everything they have. There is no holding back, no saving strength for later, just complete commitment to survival. The image changed, but that is not the story I really want to tell you. That is just context. Let me tell you about what happens when you capture a human and try to break them. The hologram showed a sterile metal room. A human was chained to a wall. Kresh guards stood around him. This man's name was Taesung. He was a special forces operative during the contact wars. His ship was boarded by Kresh raiders. His team was killed. He was taken prisoner. Daehyun's voice became colder. The Kresh wanted information about human military installations. They decided to torture him until he talked. They spent 6 weeks using every technique they knew. Pain, drugs, psychological warfare. They were very thorough. The hologram showed flashes of the torture. Not in detail, but enough to understand. The assembled hunters shifted uncomfortably. Taesung never broke, Daehyun said. Not once. Not even close. But he did something smarter than resisting. He studied his captors. The image showed Taesung's eyes following his guards even while being tortured. He memorized their shift patterns. He learned their individual habits. He identified which guards were cruel and which were just following orders. He observed which ones were careless and which were vigilant. He built psychological profiles of every single Kresh in the facility. He was planning escape. Graxthor said. No, Daehyun corrected. He was planning revenge. The hologram showed Taesung in his cell working his chains slowly over weeks. On day 43, during a guard change when one careless guard got too close, Taesung broke free. He killed that guard with his bare hands. Then he took the guard's weapons. And he escaped the facility? Corinth asked. No, Daehyun said again. He stayed. For 3 more days. The silence in the hall was absolute. The hologram showed what happened next. Taesung moving through the facility at night, hunting his former captors, using their own weapons, their own tactics, their own blind spots. He killed them one by one, Daehyun said quietly. Not quickly. He made it slow. He made it hurt. He wanted them to understand fear the way he had felt fear for 6 weeks. He wanted them to beg the way they had made him scream. The holographic scenes were brutal. Not shown in detail, but the aftermath was clear. Green blood on metal walls, bodies in various states. The rescue team found him 72 hours after his escape, Daehyun continued. He was in the facility's command center, covered in chitin and blood, surrounded by bodies. Every single Kresh who had been involved in his capture or torture was dead. 27 individuals total. Why did he not escape immediately? Avelthir asked, horrified. Daehyun's eyes were cold. The rescue team asked him the same thing. He said he wanted to make sure his captors understood something important. He wanted them to understand that humans remember. We remember every pain, every humiliation, every moment of suffering, and we become very, very good at returning it. When interrogators later reviewed what happened, they found something interesting. Tae-sung had killed his captors in the exact reverse order that they had tortured him. The first one who hurt him died last. The last one died first. He had planned it, made them watch as their colleagues vanished one by one, made them afraid, made them understand. The hologram faded. Dae-hyun stood alone in the center of the hall. "This is what happens when you torture a human," he said softly. "We do not just break. We do not just endure. We study our torturers. We learn everything about them. And when we get free, we show them exactly what they taught us." Several hunters looked genuinely disturbed now. Grexthor's scales had darkened, a sign of unease in his species. "You called that story about Hangju Fortress context," Corinth said. "Why?" "Because it shows the mindset," Dae-hyun explained. "When humans are cornered, when we have no options left, we do not surrender. We fight with everything we have, and we remember everything done to us." Tae-sung survived torture because he knew that survival meant he could eventually make his captors pay. That hope, that desire for revenge, kept him strong when pain should have broken him. "This is psychotic," Tucker said. "No sane species holds grudges like this." "You are right," Dae-hyun agreed. "It is not entirely sane, but it is effective. And it means that capturing humans, torturing them, trying to break them is one of the most dangerous things you can do, because if you fail to break them completely, if they survive, they will hunt you. They will learn everything about you, and they will make you suffer." He walked slowly around the hall. Humans have a saying, "Revenge is a dish best served cold." It means we are willing to wait, to plan, to let time pass until the perfect moment for payback. We do not need immediate gratification. We can nurture hatred for years, decades even, until we can properly express it. The hologram activated again, showing different scenes. After the contact wars, humans systematically hunted down every Kresh ship captain who had authorized torture of prisoners. It took 12 years. We tracked them across the galaxy. Some had retired. Some had changed identities. Did not matter. We found them all, and we made sure they faced human justice. "This is vindictive," Lixara clicked. "Yes," Dae-hyun said simply. "Humans are vindictive. We are petty. We hold grudges. We remember slights, and we have the patience and intelligence to actually follow through on our desire for revenge. That makes us dangerous in a way that simple physical strength never could." He stopped walking and faced the assembled hunters directly. "You asked about human weaknesses. Here is the truth. Our weakness is that we are soft and small and vulnerable, but our strength is that we never forget and we never forgive. You can kill a human easily enough, but if you do not kill them, if they survive whatever you do to them, then you have made an enemy who will never stop hunting you. Even your weapons are based on this principle," he added. The hologram showed various human weapons. "We do not just try to kill our enemies. We try to make killing as efficient and devastating as possible. We invented nuclear weapons and used them on ourselves during wars. We created biological weapons, chemical weapons. We made weapons designed specifically to cause maximum suffering before death. And then we looked at those weapons and decided they were too horrible, even for us. So we banned them. We agreed as a species not to use them. But we kept the knowledge. We kept the ability to make them, because humans understand deterrence. We understand that sometimes the threat of terrible revenge is more effective than actual revenge." The temperature in the hall seemed to have dropped. The predators who had been boasting about their hunts hours ago were now quiet and thoughtful. "So when you capture a human," Dae-hyun said into the silence, "remember this. Every moment of pain you inflict is being recorded in their memory. Every humiliation is being stored away. And if they survive, if they escape, they will use everything they learned during their captivity to hunt you down. Not just you personally, but everyone you love. Everything you care about. Humans do not believe in partial revenge." He smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "We are thorough." Corinth's crystalline body hummed thoughtfully. The ancient Velthir had been silent for most of Dae-hyun's last story, but now he spoke. "Human, you have told us about your ancestors, about your species' endurance and vindictiveness, but you have not told us about yourself." The other hunters stirred. This was true. Dae-hyun had spoken only of other humans. "By the laws of the Grand Conclave," Corinth continued, You must prove your own worth as a hunter, not the worth of your species. What have you personally hunted? The hall went quiet. This was the real test. Anyone could tell stories about their ancestors or their people, but to claim a place in the hunter's hall, you had to prove your own skills. Daehyun nodded slowly. Fair question. I told you I am a surveyor. That is true. I map uncharted territories for the colonial administration, but what I usually do not mention is what kind of territories I map. The holographic system activated again. This time it showed a planet that made several hunters recoil. The world was dark, covered in twisted vegetation that seemed to move on its own. The sky was a sickly green. The terrain looked actively hostile. This is planet designation Whisper 9, Daehyun said. It is not on any public charts. The colonial administration found it 3 years ago. Class 9 Death World. Atmosphere is barely breathable. Gravity is 1.4 times Earth standard. Temperature swings from 40 degrees to -20 in a single-day cycle. The image zoomed in to show creatures moving through the dark vegetation. They were roughly humanoid but wrong. Too many joints in their limbs. Heads that split open to reveal crystalline teeth. Eyes that glowed with bioluminescence. We call them reavers, Daehyun continued. They hunt in packs of 30 to 50 individuals. They can sense bioelectric fields, which means they can feel your nervous system from 50 meters away. They are smart enough to set traps and coordinate attacks. And they are extremely aggressive. How aggressive? Graxthor asked. They attacked the survey ship while it was still in orbit, Daehyun said flatly. They had somehow developed organic projectile launchers. Basically, they could throw rocks hard enough to damage a ship's hull from the ground. The ship had to retreat to a higher orbit. The hologram showed the attack. Reavers gathering in massive groups and launching stones into the sky with horrifying accuracy. The colonial administration decided the planet might have valuable mineral deposits. Daehyun continued. So they sent a team to clear a landing zone. 75 Vrax shock troops, your people's finest hunters and warriors. Graxthor's scales rippled. I remember this mission. We lost contact with that team. They lasted 4 days, Daehyun said. The hologram showed brief combat footage. Vrax warriors in full armor being overwhelmed by hundreds of reavers. The reavers learned to aim for joints in the armor. They used hit-and-run tactics. They attacked at night when thermal vision was less effective due to the temperature swings. They were smart. After the Vrax team was lost, the administration sent Kresh exterminators, 200 warriors specialized in clearing hostile worlds. They lasted 6 days. Lixara's mandibles clicked rapidly. This is impossible. Kresh swarms do not fail. This one did, Daehyun said. The reavers adapted faster than the Kresh could. They started targeting command pheromones. They learned to recognize Kresh tactics and counter them. By day 5, the swarm was scattered and panicking. By day 6, there were no survivors. The hall was silent now. Every hunter knew the reputation of Vrax shock troops and Kresh exterminators. If both had failed, this was indeed a deadly world. The administration was ready to give up on the planet, Daehyun said. But then someone suggested trying a different approach. Instead of sending an army, send one person. Someone who could move quietly. Someone who could adapt. Someone who specialized in surviving alone on hostile worlds. He gestured to himself. They sent me. One human? Takar said incredulously. Against creatures that destroyed 75 Vrax and 200 Kresh. Yes, Daehyun said simply. I went down with a survival kit and a mapping drone. No weapons beyond a survival knife and a compact plasma pistol. No armor except a basic environmental suit. No backup. I was expected to survey the planet and determine if colonization was possible. The hologram shifted to show helmet camera footage. Daehyun's perspective as he descended to the planet's surface in a small pod. The first 2 weeks were the hardest, he said quietly. I was prey. The reavers hunted me constantly. I could not sleep for more than 20 minutes at a time. I could not light fires. I had to move constantly to avoid their bioelectric sensors. The footage showed frantic movement through dark forest, glowing eyes in the darkness. The sound of clicking and scraping as reavers communicated. I lost 12 kilos in those 2 weeks, Daehyun continued. I was exhausted, starving. I had infected wounds from thorns in the vegetation. I seriously considered activating my emergency beacon and accepting rescue, even though that would mean mission failure. But you did not, Corinth said. No, Daehyun agreed. Because on day 15 something changed. I stopped running. The hologram showed Dae-hyun sitting in a cave looking at his mapping drone's data. I had been gathering information the whole time I was running. I recorded Reaver movements. I analyzed their hunting patterns. I studied their communication methods. And I realized something important. What? Several hunters asked. They were animals, Dae-hyun said. Smart animals, but still animals. They followed patterns. They had predictable behaviors. And most importantly, they could learn fear. The footage shifted to show Dae-hyun setting traps, not to kill Reavers but to hurt them, snares that caught limbs, pits filled with sharpened stakes, deadfalls that crushed but did not kill. I stopped trying to hide from them, Dae-hyun explained. Instead, I started teaching them that coming near me was dangerous. I set traps along my trails. I poisoned water sources they used. I used their own bioelectric sensitivity against them by creating false signals with my equipment. The hologram showed a Reaver pack approaching one of these false signals, only to trigger a trap that injured several of them. They retreated, clicking in what might have been confusion or fear. By month 3, I noticed them avoiding areas where I had been, Dae-hyun said. They were learning, so I escalated. I started using Reaver pheromones I had collected to trigger territorial conflicts between packs. I would make one pack think another had invaded their hunting ground. They would fight each other while I moved through safely. You turned them against each other, Graxthor said. Yes, Dae-hyun confirmed. By month 5, I was walking openly through territories that used to be deadly. The Reavers would sense me coming and leave. They had learned that the small human was more trouble than food was worth. The hologram showed the most striking image yet. Dae-hyun walking calmly through dark forest while Reavers watched from the shadows but did not approach. Their glowing eyes tracked him, but they kept their distance. I stayed on Whisper 9 for 8 months total, Dae-hyun said. When I finally called for extraction, I had mapped 60% of the planet's surface. The administration reviewed my findings and designated the world as pacified under human deterrence protocol. What does that mean? Asked a young hunter. It means the planet is considered safe for colonization as long as humans maintain a presence, Dae-hyun explained. The Reavers have learned to avoid humans. They treat us as super predators. As long as there are humans on the planet, the Reavers will not attack settlements. They have been, domesticated is the wrong word, intimidated. They remember what I taught them. The silence in the hunter's hall was profound. No one moved. No one spoke. The gathered predators, the most feared hunters in the galaxy, stared at the small human standing in their midst with new understanding. Finally, Corinth rose. The ancient Velthir's crystalline body chimed softly as he approached Dae-hyun. Human, the Grand Conclave has heard your testimony. You have proven yourself a hunter of exceptional skill. More than that, you have shown us something we did not understand about your species. He paused, his crystalline form reflecting the hall's lights. By the ancient laws, we recognize you as a hunter worthy of this hall. You may trade here. You may share in our knowledge. You have earned your place. Dae-hyun bowed slightly. Thank you. But Graxthor was not finished. The massive Vrak stepped forward and his voice carried both respect and unease. Before you take your place among us, human, I must ask. When you questioned our hunts, when you asked if that was all, what did you mean? Dae-hyun looked around at all the assembled predators. I meant no insult, truly. Your hunts are impressive by any measure. You have killed dangerous creatures. You have survived harsh environments. You have proven your courage and skill. But, Corinth prompted. But where I come from, hunting is different, Dae-hyun said quietly. On Earth, the most dangerous prey is other humans. We have spent our entire evolutionary history competing with the only species in the galaxy that matches us for intelligence, adaptability, and persistence. Ourselves. He gestured to the trophies on the walls. You hunt creatures that cannot learn from their mistakes, cannot change their tactics, cannot build tools to counter yours. That is still hunting, but it is not the kind of hunting that tests you fully. And human hunting does? Lixara asked. Human hunting means your prey can predict your moves because they think like you, Dae-hyun explained. It means they can set traps for you while you hunt them. It means they can become the hunter while you are the prey, and you might not realize it until too late. Every hunt against an intelligent opponent is a chess match, where both sides are trying to predict moves ahead. He walked slowly around the center of the hall. That is why humans are dangerous. We did not evolve hunting simple prey. We evolved hunting each other. We spent thousands of years practicing warfare and assassination and stalking enemies who were just as smart as us. Every tactic we know was tested against the most dangerous opponent possible, another human who was trying to kill us first. Daehyun stopped and faced the gathered aliens. So when I ask, is that all? I am asking if you have ever hunted something that hunts you back with equal intelligence. Something that studies you while you study it. Something that adapts as fast as you do. Because that is normal for humans. That is what we consider a real hunt. The implication settled over the hall like a heavy blanket. Several hunters exchanged glances. They were reassessing everything they thought they knew about humans. Tokar spoke up, his voice cautious. You said humans hunt each other. Past tense, yes. Your species is unified now. You have peace. Daehyun's smile was small and somewhat sad. We have reduced internal conflict, yes. We rarely kill each other anymore compared to our past. But that just means we redirect those skills elsewhere. Every human soldier is trained to fight against human-level intelligence. Every human investigator learns to track intelligent criminals. Every human strategist studies human history to understand tactics and counter-tactics. We are a species of apex predators who spent millions of years practicing on each other, he continued. Now we are one civilization. So ask yourself, what happens when all that hunting expertise, all that tactical knowledge, all that experience with intelligent opponents is pointed outward? What happens when humans start hunting other species with the same intensity we once hunted ourselves? The question hung in the air. No one answered because the answer was obvious. They had just heard what happened when a single human was dropped on a Class 9 death world that had killed hundreds of other species' finest warriors. Graxthor rumbled thoughtfully. You are saying that every human is potentially as dangerous as you know, Daehyun corrected. I am saying every human has the potential to become as dangerous as me, given the right circumstances and motivation. That is what my stories were meant to show. Taemin was just a hunter before he tracked Hayato. The humans who persistence hunted were not warriors, just people finding food. Hunter was a colonist, not a soldier. Taesung was trained, but his captors did not expect what he became. Humans are dangerous not because we are born deadly, but because we adapt to become whatever we need to be to survive. Put us in a situation where we must hunt and we become hunters. Put us in a situation where we must fight and we become warriors. Put us in a situation where we must learn or die, and we learn faster than you can imagine. Corinth's body glowed brighter for a moment. This is why the galactic community should approach your species carefully. Yes, Daehyun agreed. Humans are friendly. We are social. We love to trade and share knowledge. We make excellent allies, but we are also capable of switching modes instantly. The same human who was laughing and trading with you yesterday can become a lethal threat tomorrow if you threaten what they care about. And they will remember everything you taught them while you were friends. He looked around at all the hunters. That is why I come to places like this, to make sure the galaxy understands humans properly. We do not want to be feared. We want to be respected. There is a difference. Fear leads to conflict. Respect leads to cooperation. And if species do not show respect? Avelthir asked. Daehyun's expression became serious. Then they learn respect the hard way. Through experience, like the Reavers learned on Whisper 9. Like Hayato learned from Taemin. Like Taesung's captors learned. Humans prefer to teach through words, but we are very capable of teaching through actions when necessary. Several hunters nodded slowly. The message was clear. Humans were offering friendship, but that friendship came with a warning. Do not mistake kindness for weakness. Do not mistake small size for lack of danger. Do not mistake patience for inability to act. Graxthor extended his massive clawed hand toward Daehyun. Then let us have respect between us, human. You have earned your place in this hall. More than that, you have taught us something valuable today. Daehyun took the offered hand. The size difference was comical, but the gesture was sincere. What did I teach you? That the most dangerous predator is not always the biggest or strongest, Graxthor said. Sometimes it is the one that looks harmless until you realize you are already being hunted. Other hunters began approaching, offering similar gestures of respect. Lixara clicked her mandibles in what might have been approval. Several Veltir glowed in colors that indicated acceptance. As the formal part of the conclave ended and hunters began to mingle and trade, Daehyun found himself the center of attention. Predators who had ignored him hours ago now wanted to hear more stories. They wanted to understand human tactics. They wanted to learn from this species that had evolved to hunt itself. Daehyun answered their questions patiently. He shared knowledge freely, as humans often did, but he also made sure each story carried its lesson. Humans are friendly but not weak. Humans are patient but not passive. Humans are forgiving but never forgetting. Later, as Daehyun prepared to leave the station, Corinth approached him one final time. "Human Daehyun, before you go I must ask, why did you really come here? To trade or to send a message?" Daehyun smiled. "Both. Humans need to trade with the galaxy. We need resources and knowledge that we do not have. But we also need the galaxy to understand us. Misunderstanding leads to conflict. We wanted to prevent that by demonstrating how dangerous you are," Corinth asked. "By demonstrating what we are capable of, yes," Daehyun agreed. "Better that the galaxy knows our strengths now while we are still friendly, than discover them later during a conflict. We are showing our teeth so we do not have to use them." Corinth's crystalline body hummed. "A wise strategy. I will make sure your message spreads through the networks. Other hunters will hear what was said here today." "Thank you," Daehyun said. "That is all we ask. Understanding and respect." As Daehyun walked through the station corridors toward his ship, he passed other humans. A maintenance worker repairing a panel, a merchant selling goods at a stall, a family with young children heading to the residential section. To anyone who had been in the hunter's hall, these ordinary humans now looked different. Not threatening exactly, but potential. Each one was a being capable of becoming a persistence hunter, a trap maker, a survivor, a predator if circumstances demanded it that night. Across the galactic communication networks, a new file was updated in the Conclave's databases. The entry for humanity was expanded significantly. New classifications were added. New warnings were noted. The most important addition was simple: species capable of switching between prey and predator behavior at will. Possesses intelligence equal to most galactic species, but with evolutionary experience hunting opponents of similar intelligence. Extremely patient. Demonstrates cultural tendency toward revenge-seeking. High adaptability. Recommend diplomatic approach. Avoid conflict if possible. If conflict unavoidable, achieve complete victory quickly or expect extended resistance.